What's going on, guys? Welcome back to season 3 of Zack Cooks Modern Comfort Foods. Today, we're starting out with the good one, my famous chocolate chip cookie recipe. And actually, I started prematurely. I started mixing in the dry ingredients. So in here, we have some flour, baking soda, and some salt. And I'm just gonna whisk that together really quickly before I get on with the main portion of the video. But I just want to welcome you guys back. Thanks for sticking with me. This is gonna be a great season. Strap in. Okay, we're back. So I'm gonna be starting this with the brown butter, which is kind of a main part of this recipe. I've seen a lot of recent cookie recipes on the internet, and they're all using butter rather than oil as their fat, and I think that makes sense. And for this recipe, I call for a brown butter, which is just when you take the butter, you cook it down in a pan to release some of the milk fat solids. And I think it just adds a depth, a flavor to this recipe. We use some semi-sweet, about 70% dark chocolate. You can use whatever percentage cacao you need. But to make this brown butter, you just get a saucepan, a rubber spatula, and you cook it down on medium to high heat. And preferably your butter is a little bit softened. You shouldn't be necessarily putting cold butter into your saucepan and then cooking it to make the brown butter. So this butter is just it's just melting right now. I'm at a medium heat. I'm gonna try to break down this butter a little bit, but I call for a stick and a half. So while this is cooking, get your rubber spatula, continuously stir. I don't want the butter to burn. I just want the butter to brown. But while this is happening, you can take your other stick of butter, cut it in half, and save the other half for later, because we're only going to use the other half later in this recipe. So at this point, we're still on a medium. We're just going to continue to stir, but you can see that the butter is kind of slowly getting this browner color. And you can start to feel the milk fat solids collecting at the bottom of the pan, and that's what I'm scraping with the rubber spatula, just scraping that back in. And we're going to take this a little bit further, and I'll continue to stir. And it's important not to make this to let this butter burn, because it can go from brown to burn very quickly. So just keep stirring and keep an eye on it, and prepare a bowl on the side to transfer this out of. Okay, at this point you should be able to see the tiny brown milk fat solids that are currently browning. And this is right about where we want it. I'm going to take this a second further. And I'm going to put the camera down so I don't accidentally burn this. So we have our brown butter here. Collect your remaining half stick and cube that up. And then slowly put the butter cubes into your warm brown butter. At this point, you can go ahead and preheat your oven to 375. So here we have our cubed cold butter in with our warm brown butter. And preferably you would add this slowly. I kind of toss it all in at once. Now you're just going to wait for all of the solid butter to melt. And a way you can tell that you did this correctly and that you didn't burn your butter is that it should smell really good, nice and brown butter. It should smell like really caramelized. If it smells burnt, I think you should restart at that point. Just take another stick of butter and try again, because you don't want burned butter in your cookies. So at this point, all of our cold butter has melted, and I measured off a cup of light brown sugar. I opted for light brown sugar rather than regular dark brown sugar, because I feel like the brown butter already brings like a certain amount of richness. So you could do dark brown sugar. I just don't think it was necessary. And then I got a 1/4 cup of just regular granulated sugar. And I also got 3 eggs. We're gonna do 1 whole egg and then 2 yolks. And I'll explain that in a minute. Okay. So in goes our 2 sugars. Quickly fold those in. You should start to get a nice paste-like consistency. We can go ahead and put our eggs in now. So I call for 1 full egg, and 2 yolks. So I'm separating the yolks now. To this, we'll also add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Good stuff. At this point, this is our sugar brown butter mixture with the egg added, vanilla extract added. This should be your consistency, should be super smooth, super even. We're just gonna toss this in with our flour mixture that you guys saw in the intro. Continue to fold the sugar brown butter mixture in with the flour. I've been going for about 2 minutes at this point. This is kind of where I am. I'm going to keep going for another minute or 2. So I think I'm coming to a point where I like the look of my mixture. And I'll introduce the dark chocolate. We're going to use 2 bars of bittersweet dark chocolate. And just rough chop those up and toss those into your batter. You can kind of just go like really jagged. Some pieces are going to be bigger, some are going to be smaller. That's kind of what you want. And I opted for 2 chocolate bars rather than 1 because I think it's always better with more chocolate. God. Okay. Chocolate into the mix. Careful, careful. And you see how some of these are just like shards, some of these are larger chunks, and they're really kind of random. And that's exactly what I'm going for. So here we have our cookies. We have our parchment lined baking sheet. I would go roughly 6 to 8 cookies on a sheet. I'd go middle tray or top bottom rack on your oven if you're gonna do 2 trays at once. These are gonna go for, check the notes, 8 minutes. These are gonna cook for 8 minutes in the oven at 375. Keep an eye on them though. Okay, so these are my first pass. I went for about 10 minutes with these. I think they're a little bit overdone. Maybe go 9 minutes. or maybe like I said earlier, 8 minutes is kind of like what you want to shoot for. They look really good.